Riding the Bus podcast with Bennett Perry and what I should say is the hottest hitter in the American Association, David Washington. No? You've cooled off?
Definitely cooled off.
Well,
yeah,
at one point...
That was last week.
I should say at one point was the hottest hitter in the American Association.
Yeah. I'll go so far as to say the weekend was probably my best stretch of hitting, at least, statistically, that I think I've had.
I mean, what I saw when you won Player of the Week was you hit something over 500 on the week with 5 home runs.
Yeah, so it really was just the weekend. Like it was.
You had some multi-homer games then.
I don't think I hit 5. Did I hit 5?
It said. I'm just telling you what it said.
Because I hit 2 during. I hit two during the week series against who was it? Against Sioux City. So I hit 2 that series, and then I hit 3 over the weekend. Which there was one multi-homer game. So I had 2. Actually, hold on. No, there was a multi-homer game.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was.
Since then, it's gone downhill. It sounds like.
So I was it's not like it's gone downhill, but like, right. No, I went 8 for 10 in the doubleheader on Saturday, which is I've never done anything like that. That's insane. And then I went like that. Yeah. So like the weekend series, I went 10 for 15, which is that's like I can't think of a time where I did anything remotely close to that.
Can I just say, can you try to like center the camera so you're like in the center of the picture?
This way?
Yeah, there you go, right there. There you
go.
Nah, man, that was a great way. I was trying to give you a little hype.
No,
there.
I appreciate. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I tell you something? Over the weekend when this comes out, it'll probably be like 2 weekends. But I went to my first baseball. I went to the Padres game.
Oh, wow.
My first baseball game, and I honestly was trying to think about it. I couldn't even remember how long it's been. But I went with my brother-in-law because the Mets were in town. And he's a huge Mets fan. And it was Saturday night, and I was watching something on ESPN, and it came across the bottom that it was Joe Musgrove versus Jacob deGrom Saturday night at Petco. I was like, we should go to this. I've never seen, 1, it'd be cool to see Joe pitch live, and 2, I've never seen deGrom pitch live. And was a blast, had so much fun, really happy I did it. And I realized during it, kind of the reason why I wanted to bring it up, is that when you watch people live, like superstars live, I feel like it gives you a different appreciation for like how good they are. Yeah. There's something that doesn't come across the TV as much as seeing them live.
Are we talking about deGrom?
Well, we're talking about deGrom, but I was also going to kind of bring Tatis into it. Is like deGrom was dealing. I mean, he went like 7, 3 hits, no runs, like 11 punchies, whatnot. I was a little upset. They took him out after the 7th on like 85 pitches. I thought he could have kept going, but it was just like how good he was, and seeing it live. And I've never seen him live, and I was like in awe. And if you know me, I don't get in awe very often. Right. Like I'm like, oh yeah, he's good. I was just like, this guy is. I don't want to like nerd out on like pitching mechanics, but I was just how repeatable everything is, just how like consistent everything is, like just as unfazable, I don't know if that's a word, as like possible. There was this one moment in the game where I think Lindor made an error, which is obviously uncharacteristic of Lindor. Somehow they got bases loaded in kind of like a fluky way, with less than 2 outs. And I was thinking, I was like, if I'm a player on the Mets, like the feeling when deGrom's out there in this situation, as opposed to like every other person in baseball, is just such a different feeling. And obviously he went punchy and got out of it. But it was like, yeah, you get bases loaded against deGrom, it's just like, we're still not in a good spot. Like we're still a hit or two away, and it was just like, I don't know. I developed an even greater appreciation for him. And on the flip side, one of the hits he gave up was a double to Tatis. And I was just thinking, I was just watching Tatis in general. I was just like, superstars live, I just feel like jump out more than they do on TV. And he was the one guy. I mean, obviously they got Machado and, Lindor on the Mets, and there are stars, but there's just something about when I was watching it live, I was just like, damn, these two guys, I have a greater appreciation. I get it now a little bit more than just watching on TV or just watching the highlights of just how impactful they are, and kind of like the presence that they bring to it almost more than anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's because obviously I can't tell you shit about like pitching mechanics or like I can tell you when a pitch looks nasty or like when a guy throws hard. I can let you know about stuff like that. But mound presence, like you just see it with some people. And the same thing with hitters. Like there's people that are just on the field and it doesn't really matter what exactly they do. You just know they're like, that's a guy.
Right. That was kind of how I felt about Tatis. Because like other than the double, didn't really do anything, but there was just a certain presence of just like, that's a guy right there.
Yeah.
That's a guy. Yeah. Don't take your eyes off him because he's going to do something special. Yeah. Type of thing. And I don't know. And to me, that made it more kind of fun. It made it more kind of fun of experience. But like, with deGrom, like, I just would love to have a conversation with him and know like kind of his thought process, because like he to me would exemplify, I think that's the word I'm looking for, like confidence. Right. And he's not a demonstrative guy. He's not like a big rah guy or whatnot, but like just everything, no matter what happens, he realizes that he's Jacob deGrom, and ultimately he's right where he needs to be.
Yeah.
Lead off triple, I'm in just as good of a spot to give up a zero right now, or to put up a zero right now. Like right. If I just do what I do, and it's just like, and to me, it comes off as this extremely confident. He's never pounding his glove. He's not, and I'm kind of a passionate guy. I get like really like up, type of thing, and he's not like that.
Right.
But I think a lot of people equate being like confident to kind of like the pounding of your chest almost. Mm-hmm. And since he's not like, I was just like, this is the poster child for like confidence that I see, and as he should be. He's the best pitcher in baseball. But I don't know, there was just something watching it live that I found fascinating that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, there's something he said in there that I really liked, was like, he knows he's Jacob deGrom,
right? And
like my time around really, really good players and like my extremely short time being around big leaguers was like, that was the only thing I could think of. Like when like I was with the Orioles, someone would be like, how's Adam Jones? How's Manny Machado? And all I could think to say was like, yeah, they're cool. Like they know who they are.
Right.
Like they're not assholes. They don't big league people, but they also at the same time, they know exactly who they are.
Yeah. And some people take that the wrong way. Some people are like, oh, so he's like cocky. It's like, no, he understands, that he is who he is. And I quit because I play with Manny Machado as briefly as you could and like instructs. This is before he was even a big leaguer, but he was obviously, everyone knew who he was. And I just remember like watching him, take ground balls or whatnot. And I'll tell like some of the kids I coach, like, if they make an error or whatnot, like if he ever made an error, he just seemed so unfazed by it, because he was like, yeah, but I know that's the exception. Like right. I'm Manny Machado. Like I know, and like to me, like that's the ultimate confidence.
It's when you watch, like if you have a chance to watch people after they fail. I remember I saw a game on TV a long time ago when Cano was on the Yankees, and it was a playoff game, and he was having an awful playoff series. Like I think he was like 0 for like 20. And he struck out for like the millionth time of the series, and like in like a kind of a big situation, he was like blowing bubbles on the way back to the dugout.
Yeah, and a lot of people hate that, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, he doesn't care," or
which is crazy, because like if he didn't care, that would make it even that much more impressive. That you're like at the top of the top of this profession that's so highly coveted, and you don't care about it. I'd be like, we should pay him more.
Right. Yeah, it was just like, I mean, the Tatis double was a leadoff double. I've been in many situations. You give a leadoff double, you're like, okay, I really gotta dig in here to, or at the very least, gotta limit damage. Like this inning, can kind of get, leadoff double is a good way, obviously, for the offense to start an inning. Yeah. And he was like, nah, we're good. And
it was an exciting double. It was a hustle double. Yeah. Like as a pitcher, it was a cheap double. Like it was a extremely well executed pitch.
Right.
And Tatis made a great job just to put it in play.
That's why I don't know if I'd call it a cheap double. If I throw 100 miles per hour off the plate and the guy just takes it the other way down the line,
I mean cheap as far as like exit velo and right. Like it wasn't like he didn't just make a mistake and Tatis like hit a screamer in the gap. Like it was like, oh wow, great piece of hitting just to get a hit there. Like oh no, that's actually a double.
Right. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, which like you see, like a lot of times that's when the game speeds up on pitchers is when they don't feel like, that like something like that is deserved. That's when it's like.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. I made my pitch and the guy, got a hit anyway. Yeah. It really is. I think is always the funniest thing when guys will complain about that in general is when you watch. I'm sure in sports in general, but baseball specifically, I can only talk about. Is how much the game evens out for everyone. For a pitcher, he gives up the bloop hit and he's like, oh, it sucks. And then how many line drive right at guy outs, you've gotten or something like that. Or, the hitter, hits a screaming line drive right somewhere and it's caught and then they hit a blooper and, that sucks. I got screwed. I just hit a hard ball and, it was caught. It's like, yeah, but you've also, you've gotten the cheap shit too,
Yeah.
So I feel like it evens out.
My favorite is the guys who are just like good hitters that I'm talking about when I think about this is like, you'll see them, they'll go like on an 0 for 4 day and like their first 3 at bats will be just tough, like grindy at bats, like a strikeout, pitcher makes some good pitches, some soft contact, just, grinding through the day. And their 4th at bat will be like a hard line drive right at somebody and it'll just be like, oh yeah, every time. It's like, it's not really every time.
Every time. Like actually literally not. And you know that.
Yeah.
It was actually I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say Skype Squadcast interviews, but
I did have a funny thing during the game that it actually made me think of you, is that Lindor had our acquaintance, at least, Joe, pitched very well. He just gave up 2 solo home runs, and if you give up anything when deGrom's on the other side of it, you're usually not going to win the game.
Tough matchup.
So you have 2 solos. One of them was to Lindor, and I want to say so. Lindor, he went. It was only the 5th or 6th inning, but he was coming up for his 4th at bat in the 8th or whatever, and he had 2 strikeouts and a homer. And I was thinking in this 4th at bat, I was like, I was wondering what you would think of. Does this at bat determine if you look at this as a good day or not? Like if you strike out for the 3rd time and you go 3 strikeouts to 1 home run,
can't have a bad day with a home
no matter
run.
what. No matter what.
I think we talked about this before. I think it takes 7. I think it takes like 7 or 8 at bats for me to be like, okay, now that homer doesn't make this such a good day. I'll still take like a 1 for 6 with a homer as like at least a salvage. But
with like 5 strikeouts as your other one.
Ooh, yeah. If they're all strikeouts,
because that was my thing. Is if he went 1 for 4 with 3 strikeouts,
I've struck out 3 times in so many games that like to do that with a homer is just like, well, at least I got a homer.
Okay, I mean I figured that's how you would feel. Ultimately, he hit a double, so
great day.
It turned into a 2 for 4 double homer and 2 strikeout day.
Huge
but I was just thinking when I saw that, I was like, I do wonder what the different hitting philosophies would be on this right now. I was thinking the way I thought you would think about it was that if you struck out, you might go 1 for 4. I'm happy with the homer, but 3 strikeouts definitely hurts. Where if I just put this in play somewhere, then I would feel differently about it. But
it is a little like people like to point out that like hitters think it's just cool to strike out now. Like,
I don't think anyone thinks that hitters think it's cool to strike out.
No, that's a real thing. Like they're like hitters don't care about strike. Like it's not as embarrassing as it used to be.
Right.
And it's like, no, it just happens more. So like, it's not like.
Listen,
it still bothers me. It still bothers me when I strike out, unless like there are good strikeouts, but like for the most part, it's not a good feeling.
I think we've had this conversation before, and we don't need to get into it all over again. But we talk about like the lack of hitting and stuff like that. We talked about all the reasons. I think it's definitely, as I've started watching a little bit, more baseball and fun a little bit more. Like it definitely is. A lot of these guys just have nasty shit.
They're gross.
and just every guy, is just nasty. And I would argue, because I watched a little bit just of the entire Padres Mets series, and obviously everyone knows deGrom, and the Mets had this guy. Now I forget his name. He was the guy that I think threw the video he sent me that threw the slider to the Diamondbacks hitter that like fell down trying to swing or whatnot. Right. Yeah. So I think it was that guy, and I was just watching him. I was like, yeah, this guy's gross, and I'm pretty sure he's like their fourth reliever.
Right.
Like out of the like he's not Edwin Diaz. He's Seth Lugo came in. I think is like their main guy, came in after deGrom. I think this guy is like kind of just like a middle reliever, and he's like 99 to 100 sinkers, two seams with, a wipeout slider. And it's like, yeah, this is almost like their mop-up guy. He was pitching, it was like a 6-0 game. It was like 6-0 on like a Sunday day game after Stroman pitched. And I was just like, yeah, this used to maybe where a hitter could steal a hit or two late in the game, if a guy, and it's like, no, there's just none of those guys anymore. So I do think that has something to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or a lot to do with it. I'll say a lot to do with it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't help people like me who don't have what you would, quote unquote, just filthy shit, It makes sense why I'm in a chair right now, talking about it and not doing it, whatnot,
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Some of those guys are getting hit too. Like,
no,
yeah, I haven't checked. Like, I haven't checked the numbers and stuff. I just remember a while back. Like, I think this was before the conversation. I don't want to get too big into it, but there was a thing that came out where like teams are still scoring,
right?
About as much as they were before,
right? I think you saw like average of runs, per game and whatnot is still like around the same. Or I thought you sent me some stat about that or something.
Yeah. So I mean, guys are it's just, but it is. I will say, point and just emphasize more and more just how filthy.
Yeah. Those
guys are. Is just.
Absolutely.
I saw that. There's a highlight of that. Like, was it the Class A guy? I want to say with Cleveland, I think.
I don't know.
But he was throwing like cutters at 101. Mm. And you just see like the highlights were against the Cardinals, and he like struck out Arenado on one that was like, glove side outside, strike the ball at 101, and he just like waved at it. And you could just see in the body language where he was like, not that he wasn't competing, but that he was like, yeah, I don't get paid to hit this guy. Like, I'm not like.
One could argue you get paid so much, you get paid to hit everyone if you're Arenado, but
you don't get paid to hit that pitch, like the 101 cutter. It's just right. No, I'll be here for the 97 mile an hour four seam that misses middle.
Yeah. I'll tell a quick funny story. I remember my pitching coach Dom Johnson, who we've talked about, is somehow friends with Mark Sweeney, who used to play for the Padres and does like their post game and stuff like that. And I remember he came and talked to us about when he was with the Padres in the '98 World Series against the Yankees, and he was facing Mariano Rivera when he was in the prime of his career. And he came up for like a pinch hit at bat, I want to say in like Game 4 of the World Series. So the Yankees were up 3-0. Like, this was basically to win the World Series. And he was saying his only thought when he was going up there was just not to look stupid. Like, don't strike out looking stupid. Like, his cutter is just so nasty. At that time it was like in the mid to upper 90s, cutter, which at that time was, unheard of. And he ended up, I think, breaking his bat and hit like a soft grounder to third to like lose the World Series. He said as he was running down to first, he was like, "Yes, I didn't strike out." It's like, someone's nasty. Someone's nasty when you can get a hitter thinking that.
Yeah. It is. I mean, and not that Mariano Rivera is not gross, because obviously. And
he only threw one pitch. He didn't have anything else he had to worry about.
He threw one pitch. He threw it really, really well, and it was really, really nasty. And there's a guy throwing like the same pitch at about 5 to 6 miles an hour faster.
Right. And probably has other shit, curveball, changeup, other stuff you have to like, think about and worry about. All right.
While we're talking about pitchers being nasty, not to draw the direct connection, but did you happen to see the Garrett Cole thing?
You're talking about the substances?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I was just the awkwardness of the.
Yeah. That's tough. I got that being tough.
It's tough. It was a little hard to lie.
I got that being if he could do it over again, he'd do it over again.
Oh man, just
I'm gonna be like his. I don't know if you watch like Key and Peele, but they have a bit where he's Obama's anger translator. I'm gonna try to be like Garrett Cole's translator for this, and I think what he was trying to basically say was that I feel like this is just going to make it worse, but I feel like what he was basically trying to say is that essentially everyone does it and it's never really been a problem and baseball's never really seemed to care about it at the extent it cares about it now. Yeah. So if they want to start cracking down on it, that's cool. We can crack down on it. But since they haven't really to this point, I don't feel like me that's using it or anyone that's using it has actually been cheating. And I think that's kind of what he was trying to say. It was basically if they want to start cracking down on it now, cool. But since they haven't up until now, I don't think we're doing anything wrong. So I don't know what to say.
I had it as a way more awkward version of the Schilt point, which was like kind of like, I mean, if we're gonna crack down on it, let's actually crack down on it, but don't just ask me randomly if I do it. Right. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's kind of why he transitioned into the like this has been passed down from from generations of players. It's like this has been going on forever. Right. If you want to come out with some rules, we'll adjust to the rules. You want to say whatever, but I'm not going to sit here and be the one guy that's like me.
Right.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I'm in a weird spot where I don't want to lie. So I can't just say, no, I haven't used anything.
Yeah,
right. So I'm caught in this kind of awkward thing. You know what's funny? We talk a lot about like how you can only go off of your personal experiences in life when like forming an opinion about something. Mm-hmm. And my personal experience with all of the substances was always one, I didn't personally like it, didn't feel like it helped really anything. And everyone I knew that did it didn't have a lot of success. So I always just kind of was like, yeah, it's really not that big of a deal. And I don't think it helps as much as people think it helps because everyone I know that does it, their breaking ball still gets hit, their fastball still gets hit. Like they're not having success doing it.
I feel like there's a point to be made that like whatever guys, I don't know who exactly is using it. I haven't done my research. I don't know. Whatever guys that are in the big leagues using substances, using whatever, those guys are still really good. Right. Like these were not guys that were going to be released in their first spring training and they were like, oh, I found this sticky stuff and now they're in the big leagues. These are really, really good pitchers who are potentially making their stuff even better. Right. Like this is not just I think that it's kind of a similar point that gets lost with like the steroid era. Is like those were still talented big league hitters. Right. They just found a way to gain an edge that we now have decided is not okay.
Just to be clear, we're not correlating steroid users to pitchers using sticky substances, are we?
You don't think it's similar?
No, I don't think it's similar. I'm only going from my personal experience. Like I don't feel like it has, I don't know, maybe they've come up with new stuff since I was coming up. I never felt like it did anything other than just gave you a better grip. Right. I never felt like guys' stuff got significantly better using it. It was just like, well, now it's just not slipping out of my hand. Right.
Well, and that's what makes it so tricky I feel like that's probably a good enough percentage of people that use like sunscreen and rosin, which everybody loves.
Right.
Which I don't think any hitter would count as like an illegal substance. I don't know.
Okay, so then I'll just say that's kind of what I'm talking about. So
yeah, I think there's shit beyond sunscreen and rosin.
Okay.
I don't think any hitter has a beef with sunscreen and rosin.
Okay.
I think
then ultimately I'll take back because that was basically what I was talking about. There's guys that did like sunscreen and rosin to get a better feel for it. I was like, I personally didn't like it, but I was like, I don't think this is helping. Yeah, I mean, it's helping them get a grip, but it's not helping their pitches be nastier.
I've seen guys. Obviously, I've seen guys with the sunscreen and the rosin. And I've also seen guys with like bits of pine tar or something. And like when I see like a guy with like bits of pine tar, like I look at the like I don't. Obviously, I'm not the guy that's kind of like, hey, you shouldn't do that. But I'm like, I'm like, yeah, okay. But no, you tell me because I mean I wouldn't even count that as like a foreign substance. Like you use bullfrog and then slap the rosin that's on the mound on it. I think that seems perfectly legit.
Well, I think that was Schilt's point is that you can wear sunscreen and
there's rosin on the mound.
Have rosin. So if you mix them together,
I think this is my limited understanding is the shit they mentioned in the Cole thing is like some stuff that is more like I'm going to get some extra spin.
Okay. Then yes, I would say I'm in favor of MLB really cracking down on it. Like, but I agree with the side of then you really have to do it with everyone. It can't be a pick and choose who you're going to crack down on and who you're not going to crack down on.
Yeah, and I will say too, because as awkward as that answer was, it's like, yeah, it's tough when the media just starts, I'm all for the media pushing hard on because I think it's interesting, it's fun to watch. But it's kind of tough when you just you ask individual guys, have you done it? Have you done it? Have you done it?
Yeah,
It's almost more like, okay, what are we going to do to stop everybody from doing it?
Right.
Less than trying to figure out. I know how much you hate the whole Astros thing, but I don't want anybody to get suspended or in trouble over it. You just
I don't want anyone to get suspended or in trouble over it in the past. I'm saying if you were to crack down on it going forward and you make it a strict rule and then people are breaking it, then I'm in favor of suspensions. Dude,
I'm telling you, my hard push is for the boxing umpire application of the substance.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
I think the optics of it is hilarious, but I don't think it's a terrible idea. No. I laugh at it because I think it's funny, but I don't think it's a bad idea. No. I just think it's funny. I pictured Joe West standing on the line before the pitcher could get up to the mound.
Putting some gloves on.
Yeah. Did you ever see that video? It was a guy who's a security guy outside of a stadium, and he's supposed to body scan or check you before you get in, and he's doing it very nonchalantly or whatnot. It kind of became a meme.
Oh no!
Well, if our listeners have and they know what I'm talking about, that's kind of how I pictured Joe West checking. For some reason, him specifically checking he's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're good, go.
Yeah, you look fine.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that shit, right?
Yeah,
you're good.
Yeah, I trust you. All right, moving forward. Have you been watching any of the NBA playoffs?
I've been keeping up with the results of the game. I have seen very, very little of the actual action.
How much conversation in the clubhouse in Milwaukee is centered around the NBA playoffs or about other sports or that type of stuff?
I would say roughly 26%.
Okay, I'm not going to do the math of how many players that is talking about it, but because I feel like that's usually how someone, if you're not following along, that's how you kind of follow along, is that the conversations before games, before BP and whatnot, they're centered around it. And then, you have a TV in the clubhouse, ESPN's talking about it, and you're kind of all watching it together. So I don't know if I just kind of assume that you're probably involved in more of those conversations than usual, because of that. So I don't know of that, but you know what's going on. You've been following along with teams and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I posted something a while back making fun of myself because I picked Portland to go to the NBA Finals and they got bounced in the first round. Wow. I didn't realize at the time, I think the Lakers game was still going on, so I didn't even realize at the time that I should have waited because we made those predictions when we had Brett Lauren on the episode, and you and Brett Lauren both picked the Lakers to go to the final. So all three of us really
it's awful.
got our first teams bounced the first round. So I really should have waited to but I'll jump on that grenade because I thought it was funny because I was like, that's as cold of a take as it gets, right?
That's what happens when you're a fan of a team,
Right. Yeah, I was thinking with my heart, not with my head.
Yeah. Are you stoked that didn't Dame say he's staying?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's definitively said he's staying. I think he's, going to be involved in the searching of the new head coach and that type of stuff. And I do think I'm interested to see what they do because I do think they're going to kind of blow it up a little bit, or I think they should kind of blow it up a little bit.
It seems like it's about that time.
I think you start with CJ McCollum. I think that's kind of the first guy where you got to go, listen, great basketball player. Love his story. Love his game. Seems like a great guy, hard worker. What he's accomplished, incredible. But he's not a number two on a championship team. That's just that.
Well, yeah.
At the very least, he's on number two that complements Dame.
Yeah, I wouldn't go I would hate to go so far as to say you've had one running mate, your entire career. You guys have been really good, really, really good together, but you haven't won. I wouldn't go so far as to say like he's not a number two. I would just say that like if you call this like the Dame McCollum experiment, you could say there's been enough time now where it's kind of run its course. Like we've tried different pieces. We've there's been experience, the growing pains. Like got bounced in a few rounds, then made a deeper run, and then now we're bounced in the first round again. It's kind of like okay. We need to. Not necessarily that there's anything particularly wrong with this. It's just time to try something else.
Yeah, I'm saying he's not a number two on a championship winning team. Like obviously he can be a number two on a team, and Portland have gone to the playoffs and they've been successful. But I'm just saying to win for Dame and that team to win a championship, I don't think CJ McCollum can be your second best player. If there was a way to get a legitimate superstar, to go alongside Dame and keep McCollum. And McCollum, kind of slides down the depth chart a little bit, then I'd say that, yeah, he's still a good player. I'm just saying the way it is right now where CJ's the number two, I'm like, yeah, that's not good enough to win a championship. And I think that's pretty clear at this point.
Here's a storyline kind of similar that I heard about, I found interesting, was the Porzingis in Dallas. Yeah, not feeling like he's treated like the number two that he should be.
See, the way I read it is that not that he's not treated like the number two, is that he wants to be like 1A, 1B with Doncic. Yeah, like he's like no, there's not a different tier here. It's like we're both in the same tier, right. And that's where you talk about a big part of being a number two or any number on the depth chart is knowing your role. We had a whole episode called "Know Your Role."
Yeah.
I would argue that's not knowing your role if you think that you're on the same tier as Doncic. And I love the confidence. We talk about having confidence.
Are we already that far into Porzingis' career where we're just saying he can't be on Luka's tier?
Yeah. Luka is at a place right now where every year you're going to probably be talking about an MVP candidate. I would say Porzingis is not an MVP candidate.
What is he, a year removed from a serious injury?
Porzingis?
Yeah.
I think a couple. I mean, he got hurt near the end of his Knicks. I think he's been hurt a lot because he was hurt near the end of the Knicks. They traded him hurt.
Yeah.
He was hurt when he got to Dallas, then played a year, got hurt near the end of the season, so he missed the playoffs. I'm not even talking about – no, he's a great player. I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm just saying he's not anywhere close to me on Doncic's level. And then especially stylistically, like Doncic is very similar to me. I'm not saying they're the same player. I'm just saying stylistically like a LeBron, where you want the ball in his hands really at all times.
Right.
And so, yeah, so having a guy who thinks that they should be essentially getting as many touches or the offense needs to run through them just as much as Doncic, I would say that's not knowing your role in the team very much. That because I always say the best, like I feel like number two in the NBA. I don't know if he's the best, like skill wise, but I always say like Clay when Clay was healthy because Clay understands his role on the team, And I'm saying that's a big part of it. And I would say, and it's a really tricky thing with Porzingis because we talk about all the time. You love the confidence, and I think people would be amazed at how many guys on each team think they're legitimately the best player on the team.
Right.
And that's just part of the process. That you could argue that's how you get to that high of a level. In your field. So I get it, but it's just tough because I guess maybe we feel differently. Maybe you think I'm a little bit higher on Doncic. When I watch the Mavs, I'm like, yeah, every possession that Doncic is not involved in it, I'm like, that's a win for the other team. So the way the team is now. So yeah, I look at Porzingis as the clear number two, not a 1B to Doncic's 1A.
Yeah, maybe they should maybe he should be like do like a Manu and just like maybe as soon as Luka comes out, Porzingis comes in off the bench.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think the problem is it's kind of same as McCollum is that if you're going to have two superstars, this is the way I see it, and this is coming from a baseball player that doesn't really know anything. But one of the ways I see it, if you're going to have two stars, one of them has to be like a really good defensive player, I feel like. You can't have two stars both be kind of defensive liabilities. Like one of them has to also be kind of a defensive stopper. And Porzingis, is somewhat of a rim protector. I don't know his like block stats and, he's long and lanky, but he's not a shut down any big. in the game type of thing. If you're the Nuggets, you feel good with him guarding Jokic or Jokic. I never know how to pronounce his name. Or Philadelphia with MB, like some of the best bigs, he's not shutting them down. And kind of same if we go back to Portland with McCollum. Like a lot of times they put McCollum on the other team's like best wing scorer, whatnot. And it's like one of those guys has to be, I feel like, a premier defensive player. That's just that's my preference. At least one, ideally two.
Yeah,
ideally both of them, but at least one of them has to be.
No, I hear you. I think that's a very good point. I hadn't really thought about it like that. That makes a lot of sense. Hard to argue that.
Thank you.
Jokic MVP.
I did see that. Do you agree with that?
I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend that I've seen more basketball this year than I have. Right. What I will say, I'm gonna just do the thing where like I gloat because I've been so high on Jokic in the past. Right. I've gone so far as to say that he's that team's point guard and he's one of the best in the league. Best, right. Probably the most skilled big man I've ever seen. Right.
Well, that's.
I like as far like I'm talking about, like the non-physical dominating skills, right? Like shoots it, dribbles it, passes the fuck out of it. Right. Best I've seen yet. I'm trying to think of who would be close. Maybe
you know what I just realized about you?
Huh?
You love guys that play the game at a different speed than everyone else. You like guys that are able to slow the game down so they're playing based on a different speed level than everyone else. I've noticed that about you. And you could make that argument about a guy like Jokic that he plays at a much different speed than everyone else.
Yeah.
Like in a good way. I'm saying like in a good, but it's like you like guys that
Luka too.
Absolutely, but I'm saying you love guys that can basically slow the game down, in at all moments. I've noticed that about you talking about the guys you like.
Yeah, I also know, I'll take it a step further. I like the guys who are almost exactly the opposite of like who I think I am, like as a player. Like my
favorite, to strive towards something.
No, because it's like my favorite baseball players are like the scrappy, hard nosed, like put the ball in play and
do anything for hustle. A single.
Do anything for a single. Just like those are my favorite guys.
Yeah, and take a walk.
I'll take a walk.
I'm kidding.
No, but it's always those guys. But no, I mean, been a huge Jokic fan from the first time. I saw him play.
I'm with you. I didn't watch every NBA game either. I mean, I follow it. I watch it, and Jokic is an amazing player. But can we talk a little bit about just the MVP award in general? Is that there's always seems to be a debate of what that actually means. Some people think it just go to the best player in the league. I've always been a believer in the MVP. Those letters stand for something. The most valuable player. It's not who the best player is necessarily. It's just who's the most valuable.
Yeah.
And you can make a case that Jokic absolutely fits that bill and is extremely valuable. I would have personally, if I had a vote, voted for Curry and what he is for the Warriors. And I think the thing that's so funny to me is that, and maybe we disagree on this, but I find it hard to believe that anybody would take Jokic over Curry to start their team with for like a season.
Yeah. I gotta say, I don't know if I've said this on the record, but this has been a year of me kind of having to face some of the things that I've been super wrong about. First I thought Tom Brady couldn't win if he ever lost New England, left New England, and then I honestly didn't think Curry could be Curry without the super team that was Golden State of 17 and 18.
Yeah, and 6 times there was like a 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
but
that we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was very open in my conversations with people about saying Curry is a great talent. I thought he deserved all of the awards and recognitions that he got during that time. But I thought, if you take that great system away, that great team around him, you take Draymond. Well, Draymond's still there, but you take Clay, you take he wouldn't be anything. And I mean, I feel like he proved me completely wrong this year.
Yeah. That's a hot take, saying that we wouldn't be anything. I mean,
not that he wouldn't be anything, but just that he wouldn't be an MVP. Like I probably would have said what I thought he would be on this year's team would be like somewhere in line with like let's say like last year's Trae Young.
Okay.
Right, like super talented.
Right.
Get you a bucket.
I was gonna guess you were gonna say Trae Young. So
I mean, like the games kind of translate, but
no, yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely. I know what you're saying.
And we talked about this. Just, I mean, you talk about a guy who's kind of misrepresented as like this nice. People have almost alluded that they think he might be soft. Like there's not a more hard nosed, just like all about winning, tough competitive player than Steph Curry, and he showed it this year a lot.
Because I think it was proven that obviously without the aspects you're talking about, they're not a championship contender, But that he is still right. That Steph is Steph, and I don't know. I just the idea of I don't know why I find it interesting, but when I first started seeing that Jokic was going to win it, even though Curry seemed to get a little bit of a late push from people kind of talking about it, I was just like, I don't know anyone that would take Jokic over Curry though. Unless I'm wrong, you would take Jokic over Curry you're going to start your team with?
God, I love Jokic, man.
I know you love him. I think he's a great player. There's a lot of guys I love, but there's still a pecking order of guys. If I had the number one pick, and not that I would take Curry number one necessarily, but if I had if I got to my spot and they were both still
so the reason, okay, so but here's like realistically, if my job as like a GM was on the line, right, and I had to make this decision, you take Curry, but that would be in the context of Curry's career. You just
don't think he's a more valuable guy to have on your team to build around?
No, well, I know he is because of his career.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? But if I had never heard or seen of either of them, and I just had to watch them in one season, I'd be like, give me the 7-footer with the best court awareness, like possibly in the NBA, and all the touch and let me build a team around that versus let me get one of the like you could arguably you would, since you're talking about him in the MVP, you obviously think he's the best point guard in the league, but it's not so clear cut as to me it is with Jokic.
I mean, unfortunately, this is somewhat of a biased opinion. I don't necessarily have Curry on like a different level right now as Dame. I kind of have them on the same level.
Right.
I'm just saying for what he was for his team. Like I had the Warriors being a bad team. Like when I'd watch the Warriors play, I'm like, this is a bad team with an outstanding player. Yeah. And ultimately, I don't know how it ends up going down statistically with the play-ins, if they technically made the playoffs or not. But I mean, they were the 8th seed, so all consider them a play. The fact that they were a playoff team, essentially, because he led them there.
We're talking about my favorite dude, Russ with Thunder,
right,
triple-double year, where it was him and Steven Adams against the world, and
I had no problem with him winning the MVP that year.
Right. No,
and that would have been my vote was for him, even knowing full well that they had no chance of winning a championship. Right. I had no problem saying that. On the season, he was the MVP this season.
Yeah.
I would trade him and every first round pick I had for Kevin Durant, but on this season, on this specific season, he was the MVP. I have no problem saying that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kevin Durant, the series with the Bucks I think has been kind of interesting because it's him and Giannis kind of going head to head, and I think a lot of people. I've always felt this way, but I think a lot of people are starting to be like, there's like a huge gap between.
I saw a quote, and I don't know how made up it was, where I guess he pulled somebody aside at some party and was like, "Don't ever compare me to Giannis," which I love whenever I hear Kevin Durant say some shit like that.
Right. And I don't know if he ever said that, but regardless if he said it or not, that's kind of how I feel.
Kind of the feel, yeah.
And Giannis is an outstanding player. This is not anti-Giannis. I want to be clear. It's just from a tier perspective, from who they are as players, I'm like, yeah, I don't have them anywhere close to the same level.
Yeah, like,
and it's coming from someone.
You do the same thing. Like, we're starting a team, pick one.
Right. If I had the number one,
I think it's coming pretty quickly.
Right, but I've always been, I think probably for the past 10 years, I think Durant's been the best player in basketball. I'm kind of been on my own island. I've always said I would take him over LeBron if I was starting my team. Yeah. It's not an anti-LeBron thing. I just stylistically, I think he's the most impactful, the best player in basketball. So I've always kind of been on that. So obviously I'm using that to support my claim of why I would take him number one now. But yeah, I've always felt that, because it was always these are the two guys that are kind of the freaks of the size doesn't like match up with their game, basically. You know, like they're both like,
but it's
7
so
footers.
Different. It's so different with KD.
No, I know, but I'm saying like that's why they were kind of always compared with each other, you know. And it's like, no, come on, like this is something different type of thing. So I don't know. I just found it funny that watching it, you know, head to head, because I don't know if I don't think there's ever been a series, because he's always been in the West and Bucks have never made it there. There's never been a series where you saw him head to head.
That's a good point.
I think it's become more apparent now watching them. Wow, I hate talking about superstars like that, and it sounds like then I don't think one guy is. I'm like downplaying Giannis or whatnot, but that's
how good KD is.
Right. Yes, that's the ultimate point. This is not an anti-Giannis thing. This is just how good Kevin Durant is. Yeah. It's just crazy. But all right, I know you're strapped for time, and I want to talk about one more thing before we had to go, and that was, I don't know if you've been following. This is a sharp right turn because we're changing sports here. I don't know if you've been following this Naomi Osaka saga. I guess I'll call it the tennis player who has. Do you know everything?
Yeah. So okay, I'll go through what I know, and you can fill in what I miss. She withdrew from the French Open. She originally said that she wasn't gonna speak to the media. Just it gives her issues. And she was gonna accept whatever penalties, which were gonna be fines. They threatened to essentially like punish her on the court, from what I understand. Yeah. Or like, I don't know, something defaulted, which I don't know if that means you're like put at a disadvantage on the court or what exactly, or if you were going to be like kicked out. I don't know. But basically they were like, yeah, we're going to make this very uncomfortable for you if you're not going to talk. And she essentially decided to ultimately withdraw. And then I saw that she withdrew now from something in Berlin.
Yeah. Which my understanding is like it's like considered the warm up tournament for Wimbledon. Which my understanding of tennis is that's kind of the peak of the tennis tournaments is Wimbledon. I think signaling that people are like, is there a chance she will also withdraw from Wimbledon, which I think would be a big deal type of thing. So I didn't know anything about, and I've followed it and whatnot. I didn't hear anything about on court punishments. What I only saw is that they were just going to continue to fine her. Essentially, every time she didn't talk, and she basically was like, "Listen, I don't want this to be a thing, so I'm just going to withdraw because this is not good for mental health." And it turned into a mental health thing. She says, it gives her anxiety talking about it, and she just wants to focus on tennis. And then basically, if she can't do that, then she doesn't want to be a part of it. What I find so interesting is to my knowledge, most of, if not 99%, 90 to 99% of like the athletes that have come out are in support of her and are very much like, we stand with you. This is messed up. Like, I don't think players should be required to give interviews if they don't want to give interviews. Mm-hmm. And I realized through this, I am what I consider an extremely pro player person. And I feel like this is like, I think the one issue where I, for some reason, I'm like pro media, or just I'm not on the player side of this. Like, and it keeps going back to, we've talked about this on multiple episodes. And again, part of this is I don't really know how the payment structure works for tennis or for golf, for the solo sports, type of thing. But I would imagine some of it has to do with the endorsements that the tournament gets, or the TV rights, or stuff like that. So all this, to my knowledge, it's agreed to, and it's, the negotiations are about, yes, your stars are required to give interviews. It's the same thing, across football when Marshawn Lynch didn't want to interview, or Bill Belichick gives bad interviews, or basketball when, Westbrook, doesn't want to talk or whatnot. My thing always comes to like, that is part of the agreement, one, and two, that's just part of being a superstar athlete, is that you have to you have to, be a voice basically for the sport in a sense. And again, it's tough because I'll admit I don't really know much about how tennis players get their money. I think it's, you win a tournament, how far you go in the tournament has something to do with, on top of obviously endorsements, but just how you make it through the association or whatever. But like, yeah, in sports, speaking more to, basketball or baseball or football or those sports, it's like when you sign those big contracts, part of the understanding is that you're also going to be a big part of being a voice for not only this team, but for the league. And that's why you're getting paid the amount of money you're getting paid. So it bothers me when people have a problem with that. And how many people are out. I saw like Curry say something. I saw Dame say something. And I don't know. I just like, I kind of like, I want to be on their side. I want to be pro player, but for whatever reason, this issue, I just, right when I saw it, I was like, yeah, I don't love that. I'll say this. I totally respect the fact that she made that decision and that she didn't want to do that for her mental health. This has nothing to do with that. I think negatively of her. I totally respect that.
Right.
The problem I have is
you feel it comes with the territory that that if you were going to play a sport, that you were going to also deal with the media.
Yeah, she's one of the best tennis players in the world. Yeah. And part of what I'm sure ESPN, when they buy the rights to, this tournament, is that, no, we need our stars to give interviews. This is what fans want to see. This is why fans tune in. And without fans, we don't have a sport, right. And right. It goes to, and so this is, I totally respect someone being like, this is not good for my mental health. I need to think about me. Totally respect that. And you have that right. And you have that choice. But the people being like, yeah, they should just get rid of people having to do interviews. I'm like, that, to me, that's a big fuck you to the fans. And yeah, I guess I don't like that as much.
Yeah. So obviously I'm more on the I'm stoked that she's, I'm stoked that she's willing to withdraw from the tournament.
Right.
Like, I'm stoked that she's like, I'm not talking to the media. And then when it basically comes out that you can, whether this was the choice she made or not, like, you can talk to the media or you can go home. And she was like, well, I'll just go home. And wherever I feel like even if I wasn't like on her side on that, I would still respect the conviction in what she believed she needed to do to say, I will forego doing what I love for this thing that I believe in. So I wanted to, just off that, I respect the fuck out of that.
100% respect that with you 100% on that. Respect
right.
the hell out of that.
Right. And then the other part is, I don't know. I don't want to get into like, I'm not necessarily so interested in like what is right or wrong or like as far as what they should do. What I am interested in is players kind of seeking more control over that aspect of the game. I think that's just that's the big theme that I see developing in kind of all sports. And how much of this credit goes to him, I don't know. But I first started noticing it with like LeBron. I feel like he's been the main kind of spark plug with this in all of sports of like people saying like you guys aren't in charge necessarily of telling my story anymore. Like, I'm just going to do it myself. And you guys are going to get info about me, how I want to give it. I'm going to get paid for it, and basically taking control of their, of that part of their art. Which it's a compelling battle to me, whether, whatever side you're on, I find it very interesting to see. And the other part is like, you talk about like athletes as role models. And a lot of athletes, right? Like, we play with guys at all levels, at every stop, deal with mental health issues. That, how many people do you see that are super talented, totally talented enough to play the game, but can't do it because they suffer from whatever, and like the different forms that it takes, guys that drink themselves out of the league, guys that, that deal with, anxiety, performance anxiety, whatever else, like, CTE in sports like football and stuff like that. And, it reflects society, right? Like people deal with these issues in their everyday lives. And I just, something I want to point out is kind of like, what does it say, like, to the, to the little girl who looks up to Naomi, who may be dealing with her own stuff. What does it say when that person can't compete because they struggle with the giving interview side?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
So there was one tweet that I liked that was like, those of us that have the strength. No, I don't want to say have the strength, that are able to do the stuff like the media and have to stand up for those of us who can't. And
so you're saying, if I were to say, you think this is too harsh for me to say, part of being a superstar athlete is that you have to also be able to deal with all the stuff that comes with it, and part of that is interviews. And if you can't, then maybe being a superstar athlete's not for you.
I think that is a fair assessment of kind of the world we live in, and I think what you're seeing here is like, and in a different way. I never really followed the whole Kyrie Irving thing at the beginning of the year, but there was that whole thing where he didn't want to talk to the media either, where it's like you're seeing people like kind of say like, no, I think there should be room for people who either suffer or just don't want, like, suffer from or just don't want to do the whole media thing. And I'm 100% for it, and I believe from reading the story that Naomi was 100% for taking pay cuts, to be able to do that. It'd be great if you could just say, look, like, let's say, just to keep numbers simple, I get $100 to play in this tournament, right? And then like, I'll give you 50 back if I can just not talk to the media. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, yeah, like, I get I get the point that is kind of part of it, but it's like, now we don't get to see this ultra talented person perform.
No, it's a loss ultimately for the sports world. It's a loss for the fans not to be able to see her perform. I guess to your point about like the LeBron thing, I was gonna say is like, I think I always go back to it. I think people struggle with that. Fans is short for fanatics, right? Like, and that LeBron goes, I'll decide what you hear, I'll decide the story. Like, I determine basically if I think it's too much. Like, you don't need to know this, or they, the fans don't need to know this. That's crazy or whatnot. It's like, well, you don't think it's crazy when they buy your shoes, and you don't think it's crazy when they pay all this money to come watch you play, and all this money that they're throwing into, and because they love you, because they're borderline, some of these people are obsessed with you, which is probably not healthy. That's a separate conversation. But I'm saying, like, it just feels like some of these athletes embrace like 90% of the fanatics and fans, and then like the last 10. But I don't want it. To me, it comes as a kind of, you want your cake and to eat it too. Like that whole kind of saying, where I think that's why I'm less on the pro player side of it, is that they seem to have a problem when people are crazy enough to care about their lives in a way they don't think they should, but they don't understand that that's part of why all this money is available. So that's why these TV deals are made.
I don't think a fans versus players or a players versus fans thing. I think it's a players versus establishment, players versus media thing. So we're like, and I'm not, I don't want to closely relate the LeBron and Naomi thing too much, because LeBron it's 100% more of a business thing. Like LeBron looks out for his mental health, I'm sure. All that. I'm just saying, like, the moves to have his own thing on HBO and like all the stuff about like how the statement and this and that, like, those are business moves. That's him figuring out he can cut out the middleman, essentially, right? And and that's where I'm like, on that side of it, I just like it's a fight. It's, you know, like that one NFL owner said and got a bunch of shit for it. We don't want to let the inmates run we don't want to let the inmates run the facility or the prison.
Right.
Right. Like we want to sell these athletes. Like if you're the establishment, you're the league, you're whoever, you know, we want to sell your personality and we want to make money for it. And like again, mental health takes precedent to making money. But you're seeing people kind of say, no, like I'm going to explore other options. And I'm stoked for that. And I'll look, whether it's right or wrong, whether they're right or wrong, I'm for sure going to be on the player side of it. But I understand what you're saying. That is, and look, there tons of people before us have, one person that comes to mind is Khalil Green, was another guy, just a Padre, right? We were both probably fans of his growing up.
Yeah.
Went to outstanding shortstop. As far as physical tools and like, you know, should have been a perennial all-star, you know. Yeah. Was out of the game due to performance anxiety, and that's not the media's fault. But I'm just saying, if we have a player that can greatly impact the sport and people in a positive way, it would be a shame. It's a shame to lose that in any amount, because of that, you know, that mindset of, well, you know, you got to talk to the media. It's like, It would be great. And I understand it's the world we live in. I understand it's a business. I'm just saying it would be great if people could elect to say, look, I just want to hoop, or I just want to ball. And it's not good for me mentally to do all the other stuff, and I'll take less money, but like, this is what I love doing and I want to do it. And I'm stoked that that's what she's trying to do and that people have her back. And I hope it goes well for her. And I ultimately hope that, you know, she finds and stays as long as she can in a good spot mentally, and she's healthy. And I hope that also coincides with her being able to play, you know, the sport she loves and at a high level. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
No, I think those are all great points. And give us your feedback. Let us know if you think I'm being too harsh on these athletes. But,
I don't think but I don't think you're harsh. I think your stance represents like kind of the status quo, right? Like that's kind of that. Like I don't like it, right? Like I disagree with it, but I also acknowledge that like that is the way things have been. Like that is exactly how it's going.
I'm not like pro media. I guess I'm just a little sensitive to, and I try to look out for when I feel like sometimes the players are essentially giving the middle finger to the fans. It feels like, and I just kind of like, hey man, you need them. You need these people. Yeah. You need fans. You need fans. Listen, I'm not condoning fans, you know, running onto the field or throwing stuff at guys. That's obviously too far. But you need kind of fans to be a little crazy. Like that's why there's so much intrigue in what you're doing. Why you're allowed the opportunities you've been allowed is because fans are a little crazy. They're really passionate. They're really intense. They care about everything. They'd like to know about your personal life. They like to know about what you're into. And yeah, you might think that's a little weird, but being so much against that is like, well, you know, that's why you're able to kind of do what you're able to do. So I don't like sometimes when I feel like some guys are kind of being like, fuck you to the fans. You know, and I think there's kind of a fine line with that, and I guess maybe that's what I'm reacting. I'm not saying that was more on other issues. I'm not saying that's what Naomi Osaka is doing. It just made me start thinking about that. But no, I hope obviously they're able to come to a resolution and figure it out, because I hope she doesn't miss the Wimbledon. As someone who enjoys watching tennis, and she's a great tennis player, I hope obviously she's able to do that and they're able to figure something out. But yeah, on that note, I know D-Wash has got to get to the field here shortly, but hope you enjoyed that. Give us your feedback. I would like to know, listeners, what kind of your stance on that. I know it's kind of an interesting one, because it's one I can kind of see both sides to it. I think D-Wash makes a lot of good points. I struggle with, am I being, too harsh, or, because I do like to be pro player or whatnot. So yeah, give us your feedback. send us an email, send us a DM on Instagram. Follow us at Riding the Bus Podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. All the stuff. I think I'm going to stop doing it. I hate doing it every time. But yeah, that's all I got. Do you got anything else?
Go Milkmen.
Go Milkmen.
Be on the lookout.
That's the Milwaukee Milkmen. That's not just the Milkmen all over the world. That's specifically the baseball team.
But man, are milkmen still a thing? Are there still people out there delivering milk? Last
person in the world you want to ask that question to. I have no idea.
That's along with your feedback on Bennett and I's take on Naomi Osaka. Also, let us know if you've seen a milkman.
Yes. That would be helpful.
I don't know.
But also follow along the Milwaukee Milkmen and cheer on and support our guy D-Wash as he continues to hit homers on the season. Left turns only, right?
Left turns only. Shout out to Adam Walker.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
All right.